Okay, let's talk VAR. That's been the topic of this week, specifically because of the Liverpool versus Manchester City game, in which Manchester City were denied an obvious penalty, because the referee deemed that Trent Alexander-Arnold did not handball the ball. But and there was another incident in that game as well with Mo Salah, where there was an offside call, a really tight offside call, which wasn't given. I just want to sort of dissect VAR. I know lots of people are saying VAR is a technology and everything else, but no, I don't think it's a technology. It's obviously someone's got to be in control of that technology, and it's those people in Stockley Park who are making the decisions. As I said, in my opinion, I thought it was a penalty because I thought his hand was in an unnatural position, and so that should have been given. But it's not even those decisions that is it or the thing is, VAR was brought in so that we can eliminate all this ambiguity. So it's meant to be for clear and obvious. Right, so was that clear and obvious? In my opinion, yes. But it's more than just the clear and obvious. For me, it's all about consistency. And what we're seeing at the moment is totally no consistency in the game whatsoever. So if we take a look at, for instance, the other incident, the Salah one, I'm posting up a picture here. You can see, for me, from the naked eye, it looks like Salah is offside by about half a yard or so. But then VAR was consulted, and they took less than a minute to decide that he was in an onside position. I don't know how they can take such a short time to make that decision. And if you look at the match earlier, the day before, Sheffield United against Tottenham Hotspur, you saw the margin of offside that was given to the Sheffield United player, and it was probably a toenail offside, but yet that was given. I didn't see any rulers coming out for that one. Then at half time, they show you a ruler to say that John Stones was keeping him on. But to me, that still is inconclusive, because there was an incident earlier on last season where Harry Kane played against Tottenham against Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final, where VAR said that Harry Kane was onside, but Chelsea had a camera there as well. They did a line, and from the angle that Chelsea could see, he was easily offside. I have got an idea which can eliminate all this nonsense, because for me, it's still subjective, especially these offsides. It's still a bit subjective. As I said, is the technology accurate? Would you say it's 100% accurate so that you can determine whether someone is offside? What angle do you use? Because I said the angle that I posted earlier, it looks like he's offside from there. But if they're using a different angle, it may paint a different picture. So is it scientific? Is it really, really accurate, as they say? If it's not accurate, then you can't be calling these decisions. And I actually think that we should do what's similar to what they do in cricket, where I'm not sure if all of you watch cricket or know the rules of cricket. With cricket, the umpire gives the decision whether it's out or not, especially on LBW. And if he gives out and the other team appeals it, if they then go to their version of VAR, so they have a review and have a look at it. If the umpire is given out and the ball is going to hit the wicket, even if it's going to hit a fraction of the wicket and the umpire's given out, then his call remains. If he's given not out and the bowling side review it, if the ball is hitting just a fraction of the wicket or half a stump, then they still stay with the umpire's call. So even though technically it's out, But because the umpire called it as not out, it remains. The only time it's not out is if it's clear and obvious. That's what VAR is getting wrong. If it's clear and obvious, that means that the ball is going to be hitting the middle of that last stump. That's when they reverse their decision. You know, too many times we are having this clear and obvious thing, and we're taking 2 or 3 minutes for the guys in Stockley to make the decision. If it's taking you 2 or 3 minutes to make the decision, how's that clear and obvious? If it's clear and obvious, that should be wrapped up in at least less than half a minute. So 2 things that can be improved with VAR. The first one I say is that you go with the referee. If it's a tight decision, you stick with the referee's on-field decision. So the second thing is you have a timer of 30 seconds where Stockley Park then have to make a decision of whether it's clear and obvious. 30 seconds is more than enough to determine whether something's clear and obvious. If it's taking you more than 30 seconds, as I said, it's not clear and obvious. What that does do then, it takes out the ambiguity out of the game, it takes out any grey areas, plus you've got to think about the fans as well. There's no communication for the fans who are watching this VAR, and it's taken so long sometimes for them to make these decisions. So 30 seconds, and then there's not a long delay in the game. You know, like we had the game where Chelsea played Ajax the other day. I want to talk about that one in a bit more detail. But in that one, it took about 3 minutes to make the decision, the VAR decisions, etc. But yet, or 2 minutes say, but yet only 4 minutes was put on. So how is that fair? So I think, 30 seconds, move on, and the game is more flowing, so you don't get that big delay in the game. The other thing, I think we need some rule changes. For this to work, we need some rule changes, because I think some of the rules are ridiculous. As I said, the offside law is, come on, if you're a toenail offside, how are you gaining an advantage? You're not gaining an advantage by being just a toenail offside. And there was an incident like the Chelsea game, like take Tammy Abraham, that was given offside. He had his back to the goal and his back foot was offside. How's that gaining an advantage? You had the Liverpool defenders were running back towards the goal, whereas did I say Tammy Abraham? I meant Mason Mount. Mason Mount had his back to the goal. So if Mason Mount has got his back to the goal, even if his foot's offside, he's got to receive the ball like he did, turn, and once he's received the ball and turned, the Liverpool defenders have got back into position. So there was no way that Chelsea gained an advantage in that situation. So come on, sometimes common sense has got to be used. It shouldn't be just black and white. Oh yeah, his foot's offside, so it's got to be given. You know, we want to see goals in the game, because that's what fans come for. Fans come for the excitement of goals in the game. So we're taking out that element, yeah. And so for me, that should change. If a player's got his back to the goal, it's not a clear advantage, so you let it ride in that situation. You don't give an offside call. If a player's toenail, like the Sheffield United one the other day, toenail's offside, you let it ride. For the record, I think for consistency, that Salah one shouldn't have been given. But if I'm applying that same rule, then Salah's one was so marginal. Yeah, so okay, give the goal. So I don't mind Salah getting the goal yesterday, but it's just the inconsistencies that we were seeing in the game between what happened yesterday and what happened in the Sheffield United game. So that's, you know, taking out those things would stop all these inconsistencies from happening in the game. So just change the rules. And the other one I wanted to say, as I said, I'm coming back to the Chelsea Ajax match, we saw Tammy Abraham's one, you know, that we got that handball thing rule. But again, I think that rule needs to be tailored a bit more as well. If, for instance, we had obviously the incidents where we saw the likes of Koscielny against, I can't remember, it was a couple of seasons ago, we actually handled the ball into the net, or hit his hand into the net. And we saw a couple of other incidents last year where the ball, Aguero I think being one of them, and another one where the player's hand has taken the ball into the net. Yeah, those need to be given off, are disallowed quite clearly.
Because you cannot score with your hand.
And it's taken the ball into the net. Even if it touches the striker's hand to deviate the ball away from the attacker to give the striker that advantage. Yeah, those should be given. But the Tammy Abraham one the other day, it did not give Chelsea any advantage whatsoever. The ball was struck. If it didn't hit his hand, it was going to hit his thigh and still come back. It didn't deviate. The ball didn't deviate. It didn't give us any sort of advantage to Azpilicueta who struck it. And the thing is, I had to look at it about 4 times before I knew what happened. I said, what was that given for? I had to slow it down because I didn't see any sharp deviation in the ball or anything. It was just a natural movement. So if you're using the natural thing for the handball for the defenders, I think you need to use that for the attackers. I don't think it should be just a black and white thing of, handball, But as I said, if it's something obvious, which is clearly giving you an advantage, I'm all for it. But if it's something that hasn't stopped the flight of the ball, hasn't changed the direction of the ball, then come on now. Let's give the attackers a bit of incentive, because as I said, this game's all about scoring goals and the excitement as well. So the football's getting ruined by this VAR because I said the decisions are taking way too long. There's too much debate as well because I said there's too much inconsistencies, and it's still too dependent on the decisions of the people in Stockley Park and the refereeing association. So to me, it hasn't cut out any of the controversy. If anything, it's heightened the controversy that we're having. So a few simple rule changes, I think, would improve the way that VAR can be implemented.